Okay, in this lecture now, what we want to do is create some variable in the code to remember a few things or to store some very specific values here. So let's say, for example, when somebody clicks on a number, let's say on number 4, then they click on the multiply, then they click on the number 5, we have to remember two of these different numbers, right? We have to remember the first number that got pressed and then the second number that got pressed, because any algorithmic operation, like any logical operation like a plus, multiply, add, subtract, or division, or any of these require at least two different numbers. So we need to store the first number and the second number. So let's do this in the code. So go to the code in viewcontroller.swift, and right below this var current number pressed, let's add this new number. So let's call it var current stored number. So you guys can figure out what this means. It's basically storing the current number that we are typing. And I'm going to say that it's of type double. So that means that it can store a very big number compared to an integer. Doubles can also be decimal numbers, such as 0.5, 2.3, 5, 6, or so on. Okay, so it's not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It can be any number, even with decimal values. Alright, so that will do for the current stored number, and obviously we need a second number, so I'm going to call it previous stored number. Okay, so that would be the first number that got pressed. Okay, and obviously I'm going to put the same type as the other one, and I'm going to initialize to a value of 0. Okay, so that will do. Now obviously whenever we do the calculation, let's say 4 times 5, the result needs to be stored somewhere, right? So if you push equal, you need to store that result. So we're going to store it in what we're going to call a new value called total. Okay, so var total, and this would be obviously a double as well, and the value would be 0. Okay, now there's something else we need to remember is which of this operation got touched. Okay, which one did we press? Did we press the division, the multiplication, the minus, the plus, the equal, or the dot? Okay, all these operations. So we need to store that somewhere. So again, let's create a variable var, and we're gonna call this one let's say current operation. Okay, that's the operation that's getting done right now, and this is definitely not a number, right? Obviously you can figure out that this is not going to be a number, because multiply, division, minus, plus, those are more like something that needs to be represented differently. So we're going to put text. In order to put text, we're going to create a string. Okay, string represents a sequence of text. Okay, and the default value would be known. Basically at the beginning there's no operation, so we're going to call it known and put this in opening and closing double quotes. All right, and sometimes we're going to need to store also the number, the operation that got executed before the current operation. Okay, so let's say if you do 2 plus 1 equal, if you do that, that requires two different operations. I repeat, 2 plus 1 equal, and you need to figure out that it's the number 3, right? So there's going to be two different operations. There's the plus, 2 plus 1, and then the equal that got pressed. So we need two different operations. Okay, so let's do var previous operation. Okay, and this previous operation, I'm going to call it previous operation pressed. Okay, and this would be a string, and the default value obviously would be, you already know, known, because we initializing it like if nothing happened just yet. All right, now something else that we need, and that's probably going to be it for now, is the fact that whenever we click on that dot, we need to remember how many decimals we're going to have after the dot, right? So in order to do that, let's store the number of decimals. So that would be a var, and we're going to call it number of decimal digits. Okay, so how many digits we have after the dot. So obviously the number of decimal digits, it has to be a whole number, right? You cannot say I have 2.6 numbers after the dot. No, it has to be 1, 2, or 3, or 5 numbers, or 10 numbers after the decimal, right? So we're going to put an integer for whole values. And the default value, we're going to put a value of 0. So we start with 0. Okay, so for now, that's all we need. So now that we have that, we can create some actions to be able to use these variables. See you guys in the next lecture.